Welcome back to the Budgie Gamer channel where we've got your indie games covered, and today we're going to be looking at an awesome early Game Boy tribute called Save Me Mr. Tako. However, as Save Me Mr. Tako does perfectly capture early Game Boy style gaming, it manages to somehow capture that seeming newness that every 90s Game Boy game had, as well as some of those same flaws of early Game Boy gaming that a lot of us more advanced gamers may have forgotten about. Immediately upon starting the game, I couldn't help but smile nearly ear to ear playing through the fluffy introduction and seeing that Saving Mr. Tako introduction screen in its classic Game Boy colors. However, if you aren't 100% on board with that level of nostalgia service, you can toggle the left and right bumpers back and forth even during gameplay to change the color schemes to everything you would have found on the Game Boy Color. Additionally, diving into the options menu can allow you to play the game in different screen ratios as if you were playing it on the Game Boy Color, or even the Super Game Boy system. And one of the greatest little extra mile touches the developer threw in were those custom Game Boy screens for if you are playing it in the Super Game Boy modes. Getting onto the story, however, it's a bit light and unexplained, but you, Mr. Tako, are thrown in the middle of a war between the octopi and the humans. And though it is your brother's war and he is heading up this crusade to dominate all of landkind, for some relatively unexplained reason you choose to drop your armor and rescue a princess that's been thrown overboard. And rescuing her and pulling her back to land has caught the attention of a certain magical fairy. Playing through a few of the earlier levels, you get a handle on what a legitimate early platformer used to be. Navigating through your own oceanic terrain, you'll be able to jump really high, and shoot left and right. And you quickly discover that one of the key mechanics of the game is using your little ink bullets in order to freeze enemies so that you can use them as additional platforms. And as simple as this mechanic may be, just shooting something in order to use it as a springboard, the enemies are only stunned for a very small amount of time, and as the game progresses, you'll be required to be able to jump and target multiple enemies one after the other. Additionally, as your only weapon is your stunning ink pellet, you won't be able to actually kill enemies to permanently remove them from your way. That being said though, if you just need them gone, you can freeze them and push them off a cliff. As I stated earlier though, only the earlier levels of gameplay are in this aquatic environment, and that's mostly because the gameplay and themes of Save Me Mr. Tako are divided into overarching worlds. Each world will have a multitude of short platforming levels within it, but as soon as you reach a certain gaming threshold where a new story element is unlocked, new worlds with new themes and new platforming elements will open up for you to play through. Though you'll initially deal with the freezing of fish and crabs in order to navigate your way through your water world, playing through cities and forests opens up a wealth of new enemies as well as a lot of new possibilities for platforming and ways that you might be required to navigate the maps. However, as short as each one of these platforming levels in each of the overarching worlds might be, you probably won't be cruising through too terribly quickly. Every new area does have its own learning curve, and the game does get exponentially more difficult the further in you go. And as Mr. Tako does only pretty much have one hit point before he dies, fast twitch reflex platforming can generally be given over to level memorization, as the higher difficulty of gameplay will actually attempt to trick you at certain points, hiding enemies just off screen. Additionally, altering level playstyles from self-progression to forced progression can really throw a player off their game. And though the game is simple with bright graphics and trippy music, it is definitely not easy. But your initial encounter with a boss fight might teach you this very quickly, as well as the value of building up extra lives and finding those hidden power-ups. Throughout every single level in Saving Mr. Tako, there are feathers or pieces of seaweed or whatever they might be that, if collected, add one extra life to your inventory. However, collecting these gems and crystals, if you can manage to collect 100, also add one extra life. But that's not the only way to squeeze a little bit more gameplay out of Mr. Tako. Hidden throughout the various levels of the game, there are different hats that you can find that provide Mr. Tako with an awesome power-up, and any one of these 50 collectible hats could swap your ink bullets for the ability to shoot arrows, throw bombs, plant flowers, or toss bouncing pellets that ricochet all across the screen. And because certain players might find certain hat abilities to be more advantageous in certain levels, there's a hat shop provided in every overworld, as well as the ability to swap hats one time at every checkpoint in every level. But despite arrows and bombs being a really cool advantage, I found myself most generally playing with the hat that granted you one extra hit point, because I honestly felt like it lowered the learning curve to something that was a little more my speed. All in all, I'd have to say though that Mr. Tako is a really amazing game that is truly reminiscent, and not just reminiscent, but truly recaptures the feel and the essence of early Game Boy gaming. However, that being said, early Game Boy games weren't perfect, they were just new. So Mr. Tako does have some flaws that certain players players might notice right away. One of them is not having the ability to skip cutscenes, and the other one is a really floaty, sometimes unpredictable jumping characteristic. And if you really have a critical eye for detail, you might notice that during gameplay, when you swap Mr. Tako to play as a different character, your hitbox does stay the same as Mr. Tako. But in all honesty, I didn't find any of these issues to be game-breaking, and actually found them to be very true of what I expected from an early gaming experience. And though it may take you over 20 hours to navigate through all the platforming insanity in Save Me Mr. Tako, there are over 100 chippy songs to keep you company on your way. And it's little touches like that, including the flaws in the actual gameplay itself, that make me recognize Save Mr. Tako is a real gem. It's cheap, it's full of content, and it absolutely oozes with the amount of love that the developer had for early gaming. So if you're into retro indies, you're a fan of the platforming genre, or you just really think it'd be fun to play a game as an octopus, Save Me Mr. Tako is definitely one that you want to have on your list. But anyway, that about wraps up the review of Save Me Mr. Tako, now on the Switch. So if you enjoyed the review or found it helpful, feel free to throw me a like or a comment to show your support, and don't forget to click that little bell icon when you subscribe to stay updated with the latest content. New and unique indies are coming out literally every day, so there's always going to be something new to find right here. But anyway, this has been Budget Gamer, so as always, thanks for watching.